At an ice rink on the outskirts of Nashville, Tennessee, the US Para Ice Hockey team are preparing for another training session. Para Ice Hockey, or Sled Hockey, only made its Paralympic debut in 1994, but it has quickly become a key event of the Games.
So sled hockey, it's played on the same rink, it's played with the same rules, it is just as physical, just as intense, just as fast. It is at its heart ice hockey. The only differences are you are playing sitting down in a essentially custom built sled with the skate blades mounted to a frame underneath you and underneath the seat that you're kind of strapped into with your legs, if you have them, out on a frame. And then you use 2 sticks instead of 1, and the 2 sticks are about 2.5 feet long. And then on one end you have the hockey stick part, you tape up, you stick handle and shoot with. Then at the other end you have metal ice picks that you dig into the ice and propel yourself almost like a cross-country skier would.
Jack Wallace was part of the US team that won gold at the 2018 Games in Pyeongchang.
As a kid, I played a bunch of different sports. I played football, I played baseball, wrestled, lacrosse. I did pretty much everything that my parents had time for me to do. But ice hockey was always my favorite.
In 2008, age 10, Wallace's life took a dramatic turn.
I was on a family vacation in 2008 in Lake George, New York. We were water skiing. We had 2 people off the same boat water skiing at the same time, having a great day on the water. Then unfortunately, I was in the water and ended up getting struck by the propeller on the back of the boat. Well, the propeller basically destroyed the majority of my right leg, basically from the bottom of my butt all the way down to my heel. I screamed, and then I looked down and the water's all completely red around me. I didn't know what was going on. Started going to shock. My dad pulled me up on the boat, and at that point, I'm kind of in and out. In my head, I kind of had those thoughts like, oh, as a 10-year-old, it's kind of hard to fathom that you're going to think that you're going to die. But in those, when I was fading in and out, it's like, oh, okay, like I might die. Like this isn't good. Like. Ended up getting life flighted to a trauma center where I was put into a medically induced coma for 3 days, and then during the course of those 3 days, went through numerous surgeries, vascular surgeries, trying to reduce blood loss and try and repair my leg the best they could. But at the end of the day, they really had to amputate to save my life.
Jack had his right leg amputated. Soon he began to struggle with depression.
It was an incredibly sad, sad few months, sad year. Kind of the slow realization of how my life had been just completely changed. How all I wanted to do was to go play games with my friends, go do sports with my family. It is really easy to get sad and feel depressed, and I definitely went through those periods where I was talking to my parents like, hey, is there any way we can just not do this? Like, is there any way like I can kind of just end it right here? Like, I don't want to go through this whole process and all that stuff. And I had those dark moments, and it's hard to think back, as a 10-year-old, basically asking someone to kill you because it's such a difficult moment.
Hope began at a summer camp the following year.
I got involved with a camp called Camp No Limits. It's a camp for kids and families dealing with limb loss and limb difference. And one of the volunteers at that camp, pulled me aside, was talking to me a little bit, asked me what my favorite sport was. Obviously I said hockey, and I was sad because I couldn't play it anymore, because the first thing I did when I got my first prosthetic, when I got home, was put on my rollerblades and try and skate around in the driveway, and obviously that didn't work at all. So that was another one of those not great moments. But he told me like, hey, it's okay. Like, there's a lot of adaptive sports out there. Like, there's you can play sled hockey. And I was like, what's sled hockey? Found a local program in Woodbridge, New Jersey. called the Woodbridge Warriors. They got me right on the ice, and my parents, they describe it as for the entire hour session, I was just smiling ear to ear the whole time. I fell in love with the sport all over again. I didn't think that was possible, but it really happened. Because once I got back on the ice, it felt like all those limitations melted away, and I was playing hockey again, and that was my favorite thing to do.
Wallace was soon on a pathway to the US national team. After a few years playing for the development side, he made his senior debut in 2016. 2 years later, he lined up for the US in the Paralympic final against Canada.
Canada scored early in the game, and we just could not score, and we ended up pulling our goalie with about a minute and a half left on the clock. And then, they get a rush down on an empty net, but then the puck hits the post. We pick it up and we rush down the other end of the ice, and then we end up tying the game with about 30-something seconds left. And then going into overtime, and then we end up scoring. I'm skating back to the pile. We all rushed the goalie to celebrate, and I ripped my helmet off, and it was so loud, and I knew exactly where my family was sitting. And I ripped the helmet off, and I looked right at them, and they were going absolutely nuts. It went full circle, it went all the way back to when I was 10 years old, and that happened to me. It was almost like all those emotions I had bottled up when I was 10, 11 years old, they all got released all at once. And I'm sure we've actually talked about it as a family. It was the same case with my dad, with my mom, with my brothers and my sister. It was kind of just this singular moment that all of that didn't matter anymore.
Fast forward, and the US team head to Beijing looking to retain their crown for the 4th consecutive time.
We're ready to go. This team is looking better than it ever has, which is crazy to think after 3 consecutive gold medals that this team just keeps getting better. It's going to be super intense. Everyone's going to come out absolutely flying at us, because we are the defending champs, and no doubt in my mind that Canada, Russia, China, Czech Republic, every single country there is going to be gunning for us. So we're taking that with a grain of salt, and we're going to be ready.
Wallace's Paralympic dream does not end there. He also races in para canoe and now has his sights set on competing in the 2024 Summer Paralympics.
Pretty much right after Beijing ends, I'm going to start getting back in the boat and start paddling again for para canoe. Sprint kayak, I'm going to try and qualify for the Paris 2024 Games and start becoming a kind of a dual sport athlete.
Underneath you, Kev, underneath you.
My own mantra, my kind of what I've been following, this past decade is really you get out what you put in. And that's, at the end of the day, you can't expect to progress from anything. You can't expect to get better at anything. You can't expect things to just happen without actually putting in the work, putting in the energy, putting in the time to make that happen.